Hey everybody, what's going on? DM Projector here. And today's video is going to be very different. Today, instead of me playing a game, I'm going to talk to you guys about my opinion on something, and that is Final Fantasy VI and its remakes. Remake. So, we'll start off with, a little background for anybody who doesn't know. Final Fantasy VI was obviously the sixth installment, and it came out in 1994 on the Super Nintendo. It was Final Fantasy III in the States and Final Fantasy VI elsewhere. But it came out on the Super Nintendo or the Famicom if you're in Japan. And in my opinion, it is the greatest Final Fantasy game ever made. Still to this day. I made a whole video debating it versus 7. I'll link that in the description or whatever. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about how this is one of the most beautiful, well-built, well-written games ever. It's got a great story. It's got great characters. I love the whole espers and everything that it has going. So why in the world would Square Enix ever think that it was a good idea to remake it? That's the question that still to this day I'm trying to figure out. Because the game was designed to be 8-bit. And it is. Unless you play it on Steam. If you play it on Steam, then you are stuck with this shitty, ugly, fucking 3D version of the game that it's so bad. Like, I'm going to put up videos to compare them. But they fucked with everything but the story, which I know. I shouldn't be complaining then. Cool. The story's still intact. It's still the same fucking great game that I played when I started playing video games back in, the late 90s. But the problem is that they advertise this remake as the greatest thing that they've done. And A, it's a remake that nobody asks for. And B, they ruined it, in my opinion. They really did. It looks like shit. It plays even worse. Especially if you're playing it on Steam. If you're playing it on mobile, because it's a mobile port too, it's okay. But it's so goddamn confusing. One of my last videos was a Twitch stream of me playing the game. The first fucking thing I had to do was Google the controls. Because they made it fucking impossible. I don't understand what the thought process was. Why they couldn't leave it alone. Why they couldn't put it on Steam in the 8-bit version that the people who grew up playing it knew and loved. Or why they couldn't do it in the fucking fantastic versions of the cutscenes that they gave us before the PlayStation remake. Because if you don't know, they released Final Fantasy Anthology on the PlayStation shortly after Final Fantasy VII came out. It was that one and 5 were on a disc, were on separate discs, and then 4 and I want to say Chrono Trigger were in another box set. And they made them, or they released them in the 8-bit versions, but they released trailers. It was before 6, and then there was a cutscene when you beat the game that were 3D real I don't know, live. I don't want to say live action. They looked like a movie. I'll probably throw those on screen too somewhere. And if they would have made it like that, it would have been fine. I would have been okay with it. But to give us this ugly fucking 3D model that you gave us makes no sense. Like, and again, like I stated, this is a game that nobody asked to have remade. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm happy they did it, because fuck yeah, they're showing Final Fantasy VI love, which is something Square Enix has never done. They basically have ignored anything before 7 for the longest time. But they also, at the same time, because there's so much proof that they could have kept it 8-bit. There's, Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 3 came out on the Game Boy finally, and they're in the 8-bit form. when they actually re-released the game on the Game Boy, it's still in the 8-bit form. Yeah, they changed a few things, but it's still the same game that it was in 94. And then, they just put out the Super Nintendo Classic. And it's the original port. Why couldn't they put the original port on Steam, on mobile, whatever? And I know a lot of people, well, they did it to boost the sales. Well, guess what? I'm going to hit you with numbers. Because the sales on the iOS, Android, and Steam version are miraculously fucking lower than they are on the Super Nintendo, on the PlayStation, the 3 times it came out, and on the Super Nintendo Classic. We're talking about a game, and I'll post the screenshot here that I have so that you can see my source. In 94, when the game came out on the Super Nintendo, it sold 3 million copies. Great fucking numbers. First time it came out on the PlayStation, 0.48 million copies. The Final Fantasy Collection did 0.41 million copies. Anthology, which is the one that I mentioned that had 5 as well, did 0.48 million. The Game Boy didn't do as well. It was 0.28 million. And then you get down to the Steam version that's 0.243 million. That's 243,000 copies. That's it. I mean, and you're going to notice in the screenshot that the Super Nintendo Classic is listed down there, and that's 5.28 million. But people aren't buying that just for Final Fantasy VI. I did. I doubt very seriously anybody else did too. So for their sales to plummet that fucking hard on a game, I get why the Game Boy didn't do as well. Not very many people bought Game Boy Advances to play games like that. I mean, I can show you the same numbers for Final Fantasy IV that also took a nosedive in the Game Boy Advance version. But at the same time, when the remake came out on the DS and on Android, iOS, and Steam for Final Fantasy IV, its sales did just about as good as the Super Nintendo. So granted, yes, I hated it. I thought it looked like shit. As a matter of fact, I quit playing it because it was so hideous to me. You know, maybe people are interested in that one. And cool, if you are, fuck yeah, good on you. I'm happy for you. But it's also the fact that, you know, I hear this argument so much when I bring this up to people, and that's, you know, they did it to make sales. They're not making sales. I mean, you're charging $16 on iOS and on Steam for a game that's 25 years old and a remake of that game at that looks like shit. And Square Enix has proved that they can make 3D games that look really fucking good. Secret of Mana is one of them. Chrono Trigger is one of them. They can pull off remaking games in 3D forms, and it works. Final Fantasy VI did not work. I'm going to hit you guys with a couple more screenshots here. And it's going to be, you know, maybe they're trying to bring people into the game. Maybe they're trying to make people more interested, so they gave us a 3D remake of it. The game right now on Twitch has 70,390 viewers or followers. And when I took this first screenshot, there were 42 active viewers at the time. There's also going to be a video on this side maybe that has me scrolling through Twitch, because you'll notice it's Twitch and YouTube. It is impossible to find somebody playing the remake anymore. Granted, yes, they made it a little easier because cool, it's on the Super Nintendo Mini. But it's still, it didn't bring anybody new in. And if it did, they immediately turned full 180, went straight back to the fucking originals. The remake of this game is not good. The remake of 4 is just as bad, with the addition of voice acting that's not very good. Like, I was impressed when I turned it on and there was voice acting, but at the same time I was so disappointed because it was so shitty. Like, I'm not going to talk much about 4 because, I have my opinions about 4, but a lot of the people who are playing it anymore are doing speedruns of the randomizer. So more power to you. And I know that's how 6 is going to, but at the same time, you're bringing more people into 6 on the original versions than you are on... Even when it comes to speedrunning. I don't think I've ever seen a speedrun of Final Fantasy VI, 100% or any percent, where they're playing the remake. Maybe it's impossible to run it as the remake. I don't know. I don't know much about speedrunning. I'm still learning. But for it to have that big of a dip in sales, and for it to look as bad as it does, and be as hated as it is, because trust me when I say, I'm not the only one who's had this opinion. Because trust me, this video has been a long time coming, and I've been studying. And I've been studying on YouTube. There's a lot of people who just don't like it. And you read through the comments and people are agreeing with the people who don't like it and saying, yeah, it's bad. Looks like shit. Like I said, I'm going to put a side-by-side up. And you'll see, it's just not good. Like, it was a swing and a miss, Square Enix. It really was. And again, going back to the nobody asked for this, again, I'm very excited that they actually showed a little bit of love to Final Fantasy VI. I'm a huge fan. Anybody who knows, I have a Mog tattooed on my arm. This is my first Final Fantasy tattoo. And it is by far my favorite tattoo. Because Final Fantasy VI is my all-time favorite game. But to see the remake, to see how ugly they made Mog, to see how ugly the game looks and how bad it plays, it's heartbreaking. And anybody who's a fan of the game probably feels the exact same way. I don't even know, like, they ported the game to the PlayStation. As soon, like, shortly, it was like 99, so it was right after Final Fantasy VII came out. And, they're trying to get people to play, hey, we got other games, too. We know you beat 7 2 years ago. Here, play something else. Give us more of your money and play something else. But they ported it like that. And, again, it's the 8-bit version. And it's amazing. It is the original game. Oh, excuse me. It's the original game. It is perfect. And then they ported it to Steam and just fucking ruined it. Like, you don't see them doing 3D remakes of fucking Final Fantasy VII just because. I mean, they didn't even, as much as I hate 5, they didn't even do it to 5. I mean, I could be wrong. I haven't looked at 5 in a while. But I know 1, 2, and 3 are 8-bit versions. So why couldn't they do that again with Final Fantasy VI? Why couldn't they give us the original game on Steam? Because trust me when I say, when it comes to speedrunners, and when it comes to people who are modding the game and hacking the game, and yes, I know, that's not how they're intended to be played, so that's why they didn't want to do it. But to do what they did to it makes literally no fucking sense. To take this perfect fucking masterpiece, yes, I'm going there, and to just shit on it the way that Square Enix did, it doesn't make any sense. It never will to me. Maybe they had a good reason. I don't know what it is. I don't see a good fucking reason for it. But then again, I don't know the business aspect. Like I said, if they're doing it for business, then, sales went down. Sales went down a lot. So, I mean, what the hell are you doing here? And again, the game is still making so many people play and making other people so much money on the original versions and on the 8-bit versions. So why the 3D remake for Steam? I mean, my neighbors are being loud, sorry. There's no point in it. Like, I get it. You wanted to make it easier to play. You wanted to put it on a phone. You wanted to throw it on what people have in their hand at all fucking times. or on their laptops, which they usually have with them all the fucking time. But you could have made it to where it was presentable, to where it was respectable. And, you know, maybe you have a different opinion. Maybe you love it. Guess what? If you do, leave a comment down below. Let me know why you love it. This is an open conversation. This isn't just me shitting on it, even though that's what I've been doing for the past however long this video is so far. I want to talk about it. I want to know what you love about it. I want to know what got you into it. If you hate it, I want to know why. Because I hate it because it looks like shit. I hate it because they took my perfectly favorite game and just fucking ruined it. Like, they legitimately ruined it. And I'm not going to lie to you. I just told you I streamed it. As a matter of fact, there's video of it. I bought the remake. I did. They got my money. They got my $10, $15. I think I bought it on sale. However fucking much I paid for it. They got my money. But I hate it. I can't fucking stand it. I wish I could send it back because it's shit. And I literally went out of my way to buy a Super Nintendo Mini just so I could fucking play the original game. I don't understand why they thought it was a good idea to take this perfect creation that they had and just fucking ruin it. It makes no sense to me. They took a game that was 20 years old exactly when they released the remake and gave us something that nobody asked for, that nobody wanted, that the original fans of the game were looking at people going, you need to check out the other one. Like, oh, you've only played the 3D remake that's on Steam? Here, take this Super Nintendo cartridge and play this. Go download a Game Boy emulator. Play that one. It's better. So I just don't understand why they thought it was a good idea. It's something that never should have been done. And I will take that statement to my grave. Because Final Fantasy VI is a perfect fucking game the way it was. On the Super Nintendo. On the Game Boy. On the original PlayStation. If you can find a copy of the original, for the love of God, play it. Because it's fucking perfect. If the only knowledge you have of Final Fantasy VI is the 3D remake, you should change that. You really, really should. And, I mean, I don't know what else I can say that hasn't been said. Final Fantasy VI is one of the greatest games ever. And yes, that is a bold statement. And yes, it's one that I'm willing to make. Words are hard. So why would you ruin it? Obviously not for cash, because you're not fucking making any. I was trying to find the sales numbers more recently, but this is just of all time. And that's another thing. Like, everybody wants to shit on Final Fantasy VI. It has sold 10.17 million copies since its release. And yes, those numbers are including the Super Nintendo Classic. Again, I'll throw a screenshot up here. But it is the 5th best-selling Final Fantasy game. And I just read you the numbers to where those aren't coming from the Steam remake. Those aren't coming from the iOS release. They're not coming from Android. They're coming from the original version, and the original version that's on the Super Nintendo Classic. Words. If it was a cash grab, it was a bad one. And if you're trying to argue anything with me that it was a good call and it was a good game, I'm just going to be bold and say you're wrong. Because when I say it's the 5th best-selling game, it's the 5th best-selling Square Enix title. You got Final Fantasy VII Tomb Raider, Final Fantasy XIV, Final Fantasy X, and Final Fantasy VI. And this is a game that it's outselling fucking Final Fantasy 15. Granted, yes, it's counting the sales of the Super Nintendo Classic, but it's outselling the newest Final Fantasy game. It's outselling 12 that we got a remake of that nobody asked for. I mean, this is one that's, outselling Secret of Mana, Just Cause 2. And again, the numbers are coming from the original versions. So why the fuck did they think it was a good idea to remake it? I don't know. Shout out to the camera for focusing, but I don't fucking know. I don't get it. I wish I did. I wish I understood. I wish that somebody could call this fucking phone I have right now and tell me, hey, this is why we fucking did it. Because I really want to fucking know. Don't look at me like that. Because I don't see it. Even the reviews on Steam are shit. I'll probably post a screenshot of that too. The top rated review the last time I checked was talking about how bad it is. That's not good. So, I mean, like I said, I don't know. Maybe you have a really good reason to love it. By the way, I just looked down. Final Fantasy VI is outselling Kingdom Hearts. This was before the third one came out. Or no, this was shortly after the third one, so it hasn't been updated. This is a really great game. Why did you shit on it? I don't get it. If somebody knows, explain it to me, please. Like, post it in the comments. Explain it to me. Help me figure it out. And like I said, I welcome your opinion. I want to hear what you think of Final Fantasy VI. I want to know if you've ever played it, if you've never played it, if you played it and beat it, which version did you play and beat? What did you love about it? What did you hate about it? I want to know these things. I'll probably make a follow-up video with your all's comments. I'm still trying to understand. Because I can't. I can't on my own figure out why this was ever a thing. That's really all I have to say. I don't get it. I hate the remakes. I absolutely do. I wish they would have left them alone the way they were. They're perfect the way they were. Again, I didn't mention Final Fantasy IV as much, but I think the remake of it was shit too. I am very appreciative that when they gave us that one, they finally gave us the After Years, which was Japanese only for the longest time. But I can't even sit down and play through it because it's the shitty 3D remodel that they did. So, I don't know. I don't get it. But, again, I'm going to state this the way I need to state it, and that's in my opinion, the originals are the best. And if you think otherwise, that's awesome. I'm just happy you're playing it. But that's all the time I have for you today. Leave a like, leave a comment. Tell me how much I suck if you disagree with me. And I love you guys, and I will see you guys in the next one very soon. Like I said, though, let me know what your opinion is. But until then, peace and love. I love you guys.